Hi, welcome to our presentation. Now we talk about the most important events in the science by Dani and I. Galileo Galilei. His contributions to observational astronomy include the telescopic confirmation of the phases of Venus, the discovery of four largest satellites of Jupiter, and the observation analysis of supposed two new scientists to know calling kinematics and strength of materials. William Harvey publishes an anatomical study of the motivation of the heart and the blood in animals, describing how blood is pumped throughout the body by the heart and then returns to the heart and recirculates. Evangelista Torricelli was an Italian psychicist. Evangelista Torricelli was an Italian physicist and mathematician, best known on his invention of the barometer. His invention was the mercury barometer, which arose from solving a practical problem. Kepler. He was a German mathematician, astronomer, and astrologer. He did fundamental work in the field of optics, invented an improved version of the referring telescope, and mentioned the telescope describes on his contemporary Galileo Galilei. Anton van Leeuwenhoek refined the microscope and fashioned nearly 500 models, discovered blood cells, and observed animal and plant tissues on microorganisms. Christopher Wren is the first to administer medications intravenously by means of an animal bladder attached to a sharp wire. Wren also experiments with canine blood transfusions. Isaac Newton. His book Philosophy Natural Principia Mathematica, published in 1687, Newton's Principia formulated the laws of the motion and universal gravitation that dominate scientists' view of the physical universe on the next 3 centuries. It also demonstrated that the motion of objects on the Earth and that the celestial bodies could be described by the same principles. Paul Romer was a Danish astronomer who in 1676 made the first quantitative measurements of the speed of light. In scientific literature, alternative speeds such as Romer, Romer, or Romer are common. Mikhail Vasilyevich Lomonosov was a Russian polymath, scientist, and writer who made important contributions to literary, education, and science. Among his discoveries was the atmosphere of Venus.
James Lind discovered that citrus fruits prevent scurvy. He publishes his treatise of the scurvy in 1754, identifying the cure for this common and dangerous disease of sailors. Anthony Lavoisier, the father of modern chemistry. He named oxygen and hydrogen and predicted the silicon. He helped to construct the metric system, put together the first extensive list of elements, and helped to reform chemical nomenclature. He was also the first to establish that sulfur was an element rather than a compound. Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner develops a method to protect people from smallpox by exposing them to the cowpox virus. In his famous experiment, he rubs pus from a dairymaid's cowpox pustule into scratches on the arm, and then exposes him to smallpox 6 weeks later. Charles Darwin. He established that all species of life have been descended over time from common ancestors, and proposed the scientific theory that his branching pattern of evolution resulted from a process that he called natural selection. He published his theory of evolution in his book On the Origin of Species. Rudolf Virchow. He was a German doctor, anthropologist, pathologist, prehistorian, biologist, and politician, known for his advancement of public health. He is considered one of the founders of social medicine. Louis Pasteur. His discoveries reduced mortality from puerperal fever, and he created the first vaccines for rabies and anthrax. He was best known to the general public for inventing a method to treat milk and wine in order to prevent it from causing sickness, a process that came to be called pasteurization. Sigmund Freud. Freud qualified as a doctor of medicine in 1881 and then carried out research into cerebral palsy, aphasia, and microscopic neuroanatomy. Freud postulated the existence of libido, developed therapeutic techniques, discovered transference, and established its central role in the analytic process. Albert Einstein. He applied the general theory of relativity to model the structure of the universe as a whole. He helped alert President Franklin Roosevelt that Germany might be developing an atomic weapon, research that eventually led to what would become the Manhattan Project. Alexander Fleming. He wrote many articles on bacteriology, immunology, and chemotherapy. His best-known discoveries are the enzyme lysosomy in 1923 and the antibiotic substance penicillin from the mold Penicillium notamum in 1928. Bernardo Houssay. Bernardo Houssay was an Argentine physiologist who in 1947 received one half Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine for his discovery of the role played by pituitary hormones in regulating the amount of blood sugar in animals. Charles Drew. He researched in the field of blood transfusion, developing improved techniques for blood storage, and applied his expert knowledge to developing large-scale blood banks early in World War II. This was our timeline presentation by Dani and Vale. Thank you for your attention.